if we continue doing the things that we're doing, it's going to get a hell of a lot worse. A hell of a lot worse. I'm like everybody else. I can't help but follow some of the news about what's been going on in the UK over the last few years and recently, and as close to us as this week, lots of news stories, news items coming through again and again and again about how broken Britain really is. And I've done some serious reflection on this only this week to think about where the UK is and just have a look at what my opinions and views actually are. And you talk to other people around you, and you kind of come to your own conclusions about the state of the UK as it is. I don't like to dwell on negativity. I don't kind of go in for that kind of thing. I like to move on. I like to be positive. I like to do things, and I suppose that's why I'm in nomad life. I think this is my quiet rebellion against a system that is letting people down in a very serious way. And if it's just been happening over, say, one election cycle, I think, okay, sometimes we vote the wrong people in. But when it's been happening for decades, regardless of the party in power, then you've got some serious questions to ask. And I can completely empathize with people who have left this country for pastures new and haven't really regretted their decision over the last few years. But is it really that bad? Is it really that bad? And this is a question I keep coming back to. Is it really that bad? When you walk around in your normal life, when you go to the supermarket, when you interact with people in the locality where you live, do you get that sense that it is that bad, or are we just exaggerating? I know we English like the occasional mourn, sometimes about the weather, sometimes about the other things. So are we taking this out of context? Is it out of proportion? I reached my own conclusion this week, but I'd be really interested to hear what you think about that. What is my conclusion, I suppose, is the big thing about this video and what I wanted to share. I think my opinion about the UK has been declining for a considerable amount of time. I have tried to leave it several occasions. I've always ended up coming back for one reason or another. But it was, I suppose, I look back at childhood and I used to love this country. I was really impressed with this country, our history, our heritage, the good we've done in the world, the amount of great things that we brought to the world. And all of that over the last, say, 2 decades, it has been overshadowed, downplayed, or has been washed out of the history books completely. So there's a lot of people, particularly the younger generations, who have grown up kind of resentful of our country for whatever reasons they've been fed by a system or a political wing or an ideology. And that starts to create fractures, because what we've seen over the last few years also is devolution. We've seen the Scottish and the Welsh and Northern Irish start to stake a claim to create their own identities again, to really kind of pull back from this British idea, this British Union, and say we want to be our own thing again. We want to celebrate our culture. You've seen the name changes back to Welsh in Wales this year and previous years to encourage the adoption of the Welsh language once again. And again, if you don't do that, it goes away. We've seen that in Cornwall and other places. It just fades away, and then everything else becomes irrelevant around it. So if you want your culture, you really do have to protect it at all costs. You really have to double down and make sure it's part of your ongoing history and that new generations are coming through and respecting it. I don't think that's happened in the UK. For whatever reason, the powers that be have wanted to undermine our culture and fade it out and bring in something new. And I'm not sure that experiment or those tactics or that strategy has worked for those people. But again, it's a hill they're going to stand on forever. They're not going to claim to be wrong or otherwise. It's for the British people to wake up and really wake up, because the apathy in this country is, I would say, at an incredible level. People just don't care. They're so fed up with the system. They just don't care. Their energy has been drained from them. And the apathy in this country is absolutely amazing. And again, I don't blame the British people. I don't blame people I speak to for that. I don't blame them at all. So who is to blame for this disaster of a situation we're in? And I think you can guess my conclusion now after some reflection. And it is a disaster. I have never, ever in my life heard the things that people, common sense, right-minded people, these people, they've got their heads on straight. The average guy in the average street doing the average job, I have never heard him or her say such things about this country, England in particular. I think Scotland and Wales, maybe they've got their own issues, of course. I'm not going to speak for them. But as an Englishman, I can see front and centre our issues. No identity. Our culture is fading away and not being protected. We have no voice in Parliament in our own right, like the Welsh and the Scots do. That's just one of many, many issues. We have other cultures coming into this culture. There's no integration, and English people, English culture, English heritage is fading away at a staggeringly alarming rate. We look at the cities like London, Manchester, and Birmingham as examples of what the future looks like for Britain. And I have to say, that doesn't bring me hope. It doesn't bring me hope. Lawless London. Lawless London. I've just read on the news today another major crime has occurred. But again, smaller crimes are taking place all over that city. It does feel, it does look like a lawless place now. So many places to avoid. I'm not sure what's going on. Yet the guy who's been running this has just been rewarded with a knighthood. I know this is attracting a few people from around the world, and they just can't believe what's going on in England. The Dalai Lama says, what's going on in England. He can't understand why we're eliminating our culture, our English culture. He just doesn't get it. I saw an interview with him, and he was kind of like, what are you doing over there? If you don't protect your culture, you're going to lose it. And we're not protecting it one bit. And you have some misdirection into football teams and World Cups and other things. And I think that's a distraction. I think, oh, yeah, you can have your Englishness, but just lock it up in a sport. And then everywhere else, we're just going to play it down and do something different. Well, I don't think that's acceptable. As an Englishman, I don't think that's acceptable. I think we're losing something. And I think once it's gone, as we've seen from other cultures and contexts, it's gone forever. What does it mean to be English these days? Well, you find a lot of us are moving overseas. We're being English people abroad. And like I say, I empathise with those people. I've been one of them multiple times in my life. And, I'm in a different situation now. I want this country to thrive. I want our culture to survive. But we have to be more intentional about it. We have to be more focused on celebrating what it is to be English, what it is to be British. And we haven't been doing that. So your guess is as good as mine as to where we end up. But if we look at history, it's not looking good. It's not looking good at all. Someone said in the comments the other day, it's only going to get worse. Is it going to get worse? If we continue doing the things that we're doing, it's going to get a hell of a lot worse. A hell of a lot worse. This isn't a rant. I know some people like to call these things rants, but it's really not. It's something we should have been doing a long time ago, which is reflecting on the type of culture and the type of country we want to be. If we did that 30 or 40 years ago, we wouldn't be in this mess now. We would have a strong sense of identity. We would have a strong place in the world. And our brand as UK PLC would be, I still think it would be magnificent if we held on to the things that make us English, that make our culture what it is. And I know this isn't terribly fashionable, but we had one of the greatest, if not the greatest empire the world has ever seen. That was built on British engineering, British intelligence, and all the other great things about the British people. That was a collective empire. We were all part of it. All our ancestors played their part and their role, and all of us went to war. Not my generation, obviously, but my granddad's generation. We went to war to defend them. And this is the nation of the NHS and the welfare state. And again, I'm not going left or right or centre on any of these issues. These are just good things to do for people in the human experience. Healthcare. Talk to someone in America about the healthcare system, and you will be giving that standing ovation to the NHS every single day. $15,000 for one night in the hospital because of food poisoning, which happened to one of my nomad friends over there. You'll realise how good we've got it in this country. Also, I think a society that helps people when they're down is a good thing. Helping people get back up on their feet, create value, create a sustainable lifestyle for themselves. I think that's a very good thing. I don't think the welfare state is the issue here. People will tell you it's the issue, but I don't think it is. It's our lack of core identity that's a bigger issue. It's our lack of cohesion. It's let's call it what it is. It's the intentional destruction of English society, British society.